Yo, how's it going, everyone? It's Daigen here bringing you another fighting game video. Today we're going to be talking about the topic of the biggest issues concerning all modern fighting games. As we've been talking about here on the channel, there definitely have been a few fighting game issues that have been getting better over time. One being rollback, right? A lot of companies are definitely getting on board with rollback. So rollback is something that we are seeing a lot more companies are implementing inside of their games. We know there's SNK that has it, there's ArcSys that has it, there's Capcom that has it. Like, there's a lot more companies that are implementing rollback inside of their game. So this is just something that a lot more people are expecting to be there at the base start. Another thing we can also start to say is the talk about accessibility, right? At first, it was a very hard for companies or for people to understand the benefits of accessibility, but also it was on the devs to make the balance between accessibility and the player expression that a lot of people were talking about, the limitations on player expression that people were talking about. So I believe this balance is starting to get a little bit better as we get more updates to these games and as we are getting more games to come out. This sort of balance between what players or what developers are trying to have as their accessible options rather than limiting things that players want to see, there seems to be a nice separation, or at least a nice in between, that developers are starting to try to figure out in order to get more people to try out fighting games. The first big major area of concern is, of course, pricing, right? So one of the big arguments that a lot of people have when it comes to the fighting game community, when people are trying to think about even purchasing a fighting game, is the price point of fighting games. Now, of course, the standard pricing of games are typically $60, but one of the big things that a lot of people notice is that the lack of content that these fighting games have, which is another topic we're going to talk about. But the pricing for what you get inside of fighting games isn't actually good, right? Like, a lot of the fighting games come from the arcade area and they still feel like they're ports. You'll have like your training room, your sort of arcade mode, and like your online, right? There's really not too many modes inside of fighting games. So the price points are what you got to pay on top of the additional prices that you got to pay. One of the prime examples I have to think about or talk about is Dragon Ball FighterZ. When you think of Dragon Ball FighterZ, this game has $60 for the base game, and then you have to pay like an additional like $29 to $24.99 for every additional season. Now, of course, if you're willing to wait for the ultimate edition of these games, these do in fact happen, right? So you can wait for like a better edition to come out way later, but these usually come out like a year to maybe even 3 years down the line. So yes, it is a way for you to get inside the fighting game, but the benefits don't outweigh the cons in this situation, because you actually get into the game much later. That means the people that have been playing the game are going to be very good, and you're going to miss out on sort of the honeymoon period that fighting games go through. The honeymoon period is, of course, one of the best times when everybody is new at the game and a lot of people are just figuring out. This is when most people are on the game, so you have a lot of new players as well that are just playing. There's a lot more competition around your level. When you come into a game much later, you are fighting a fan base of that game that is at a much higher level than you would if you started the game when it first came out. So a lot of people are actually just discouraged by the pricing of fighting games because of how expensive they can be as far as the investment with all the DLCs and stuff. Like, yes, we like to see the support of our games, and now that we see that there's live service games that can definitely be made. Take Multiverses, for example, that is a live service game, so it's free to play, where you gain the characters by playing the game, by getting currency from playing the game, and you can just unlock the characters. You know, Project L is also going to be a free to play game, meaning it's most likely going to be a service game. And while the Multiverses team is a much smaller team, we know Riot Games is a much bigger team, so their model of how they actually will implement it will probably be even better than what Multiverses already had established. Now, another big issue when it comes to pricing and when it comes to fighting games is, of course, regional pricing. This is something that goes outside of fighting games too. There's regional pricing, things that affect other fighting games, just other products in general, right? So regional pricing is basically something where something that you are paying for is just going to be much higher in another region. So where something costs, you know, 60 USD here, the market value of in another country could be somewhere up to like double the price. So it could be like $120 essentially if you like take the value and you like sort of compare it to the value of your currency. Then these numbers can reach really high and very expensive for some of the regions inside of the world. So some people just don't have a fair opportunity to actually get a chance to play these games, and that is something that we definitely need to understand, or definitely try to tackle within the gaming community as a whole, if even possible. The next biggest issue concerning all modern fighting games, I just touched bases on it, was the fighting game packages, right? So fighting game packages just aren't that good. Once again, talking about how they come from the arcade era, they don't really have much to offer when it comes to the packages that are in fighting games. Now, some fighting games have been getting better and are now making it into where they feel like full-fledged products. If you take a look at Street Fighter 6, right, where they have the character customization mode, and then you have the full-on like story mode with your own custom character and stuff, and then maybe even more things. Maybe we could take our custom characters online and even fight each other. They probably not even show that off yet. But then you have the whole like lobby hub system and like just the whole like community system and stuff that they're putting inside the game with all these different mini games. You could play old classic Capcom games inside of the hub, and there's all these like different mini game stuff. There's so much there that they're putting. There's so much love inside the game. It feels like a very complete package compared to some other fighting games that come out that we like today, like even Strive. Like Strive has a very good story mode, has 2 story modes, right? It has very good story mode. But then after the story mode, there's pretty much just your basic modes that you come to know inside most fighting games. Your arcade mode, your tutorials, and probably like some trials and stuff to help you understand the game a little bit better. But if you take another good example like Grand Blue Fantasy Versus, right, where it's not just a story mode, it's a full-fledged like RPG mode that is essentially made in the likes of where it comes from. Grand Blue Fantasy is a mobile game, and they try to basically make the mobile game inside of the fighting game, so you get the mobile game experience inside of the fighting game where it comes to like making your full grid and getting different weapons, and like these weapons and stuff you're unlocking. You got the whole gacha system. You can actually use these inside of the actual game itself when it comes to customizing your character, so you can have the different weapons and stuff that you get inside of your grid. Pretty cool way to actually sort of mix both of those genres together, so there's something there for the mobile players to actually like. And then of course there is an experience there that fighting game players just normally don't get to get. I mean, how many fighting games out there where you can do big boss battle rush modes where you're fighting against big like giant titans and you're doing it with a friend and stuff? There's not many fighting games that have like a side scroller experience where you're fighting big bosses and stuff like that. It's pretty crazy, right? So they really just like change the direction of like what is possible inside of fighting games, and I do like stuff like that. Like that is making a package even better. Of course, they have like different boss rush modes that they come out through like different times. They even did like a season pass, or not season pass, but like a battle pass inside of fighting games, which you don't really see much. That's usually something that you see inside like mobile games, which where it come from. So it makes sense for them, I guess, to try it here. If there's any way you're gonna try it, it's gonna be the game that's based off a mobile game, I guess. But just the overall package of Grand Blue Fantasy Versus just feels a lot better than some other games actually just have to offer. So one of my hopes for the future is definitely as we get closer to these modern fighting games, you know, Street Fighter 6 already showcasing. I'm hoping Tekken 8 is also on board with having a better package. You know, these games, once again, we're in the arcade era, and now these games are having global releases. So rather than pushing out towards the arcades first, because obviously COVID did unfortunately hurt the arcade scene, but we're now having more console worldwide releases, and that means there's more opportunity to make these games into more of a complete package video game rather than just a port-filling arcade fighting game. And the last big concerning issue for all modern fighting games that I want to talk about is, of course, Brawls play, right? So within every era of fighting games, I feel like there was an issue that was mainly tackled. If you think about the PS3 and 360 era, that was the era where we were trying to get the focus on trying to get these games onto consoles much faster outside of the actual arcades, right? So when it came to PS4 and Xbox One, we started getting the games a lot more frequently, or a lot quicker than we did before, right? So there were games that still came on arcades, but we got them a little bit faster than we did before, or the games just started coming out on console, would definitely just helped us out a lot more. Then on the PS4 era time, PS4, Xbox One, this is the time that we tried to go for a rollback, right? Of course, this took a pandemic to happen, but there was a big push for rollback. Now that we got everybody on board with the rollback, now that the games are starting to come out on like worldwide releases on console, the next big push I can definitely see the community going for is, of course, crossplay for all our modern fighting games. Having crossplay, being able to have an abundance of players from PC, from the Xbox and the PlayStation, all coming together, even Switch if they want to do it like that, all coming together onto one server, just makes the games feel more alive. Now, of course, Strive did the first big push to that for like as far as a modern fighting game goes. It isn't the best implementation of it, but it is a work in progress to say the least, right? There is a company that is doing it. Now we know Capcom has done it for Street Fighter 5, and I think that one works okay, but of course we know for sure that Street Fighter 6 is definitely going to have this as well. So I can only imagine the community pushing to have this as to be a standard for fighting games as well, right? Because we have the rollback, that's pretty much a standard. A lot of people are like, this, it should be the golden standard now. All games should have rollback, or all fighting games should have it. And of course, we're definitely going to be pushing that as a community for crossplay when it comes to games, and having it properly implemented. You know, when it comes to rollback, we say properly implemented rollback, but we want properly implemented crossplay. We don't want the crossplay experience to be worse. Meaning, like, if I'm playing PC to PC, it feels good, but if I play PC to PS4, there's some like delays or like problems, right? We wanted to make sure that it feels like a very seamless experience across all the platforms that are going to be playable. Anyway, that is it for today's, guys, on my picks for the biggest issues concerning modern fighting games. Definitely let me know down in the comments below how you guys feel about the topics that I picked, or some other concerns that I didn't talk about that you think should definitely be on a list for modern fighting game issues. Definitely want to know what you guys got to say, and we definitely be having some good discussions down in the comments. As always, if you like anything I had to say, drop me a like, girl, appreciate it. And if you want more from me, follow my socials. Also, don't forget to subscribe and turn notifications so you know the next video goes live. As always, my name is Dyken, and I'll see you next time. Signing out.